support our coverage with a free account on Privacy, the service that keeps you protected when shopping online. Get $5 to try it now by using promo code QZZ2J.
Okay, fantastic. Dor, welcome to the show. How
Thanks
are
for
you
having
today?
me. I appreciate it.
Well, tell us a little bit about Intuition Robotics.
So at Intuition Robotics, we make LEQ, which is an AI-powered companion for older adults.
Okay.
And it moves into their home and helps them alleviate loneliness and social isolation and stay healthy and active as they age in place.
Incredible. I was literally just talking about this concept a few minutes ago. The idea of robotics, especially for the elderly, is so incredible. One of the hugest issues we have in this country right now is loneliness. People being separated and segregated from family, especially the elderly. So what was it that brought y'all to the point of creating LEQ to begin with?
Yeah, so it's been an 8-year journey. We just started making her available a year and a bit ago. But basically, the world population is aging in a record pace. And as you rightfully said, we become alone as we age, especially after we lose a spouse and family moves away. And this issue is huge. The Surgeon General in the United States actually called it a public health crisis and mentioned it's the #1 cause of death in the United States, more than obesity, more than drug abuse.
Yeah.
But there are just not enough young people able and willing to spend material amounts of time every single day with the older folks. So we thought technology can play a role. But for it to play a role, it needs to be different. It can't just be monitoring technology or a prompt-based device of like, Alexa, turn on the lights or what's the weather. It has to be a true friend, a true companion. It needs to be empathetic and trustful and actually become a friend. Now, how do you become a friend? You spend material amounts of time together. You remember what people said in the past. You're proactive. You initiate conversations. You don't sit idly by and just wait for it to get a command. And you need to be goal-oriented to help the older adult achieve their own goals towards healthier aging, towards learning new things, towards taking care of their health care, creating social connectiveness, and more. So we created the first AI product in the world which truly becomes your friend. And I think it's crazy that the first people living with an AI and building a relationship with an AI are not 23-year-old geeks, but 85 and 90-year-old middle, lower-income individuals across the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And earlier I was mentioning I had a friend who was a product tester for a very similar product. He recently, like in the last few months, had to send it back. He'd had it for about a year and a half. He was like, I'm really going to miss my little buddy. Like, I've had this thing kicking around the house for like a year and a half. It follows me around. It talks. Like, you get used to having that conversation with it. And once again, it's not a prompt-driven AI where it's going to give you information upon request. It's one that is prodding you for information.
Correct. Not just for information, but for action. And in order to do that, what you need to do is A, be proactive, but B, be able to classify every conversation and turn it into memories and understand those memories well, and then use those to create the future conversations. So for example, LEQ might say, hey, good morning. How did you sleep last night? I remember yesterday you didn't feel good and you didn't sleep well and you had some pain in your back. We did some breathing exercises before bed. Was it helpful?
Okay.
And if it's not, maybe I should tell your daughter about that. Do I have your permission to do so? And she might remember your favorite hobby and where you grew up and what you always wanted to do in life and didn't get a chance to accomplish and help you with those goals.
Wow. And are all these things that come about through conversation, or are they things that, whenever you go through and set up LEQ, that you actively put things like that in?
No, it's fully autonomous. It all happens through conversation. And the actions that it takes sometimes are conversations, but sometimes are actually actions in the physical world or in the digital world. For example, when we talk about stress reduction, she will create a stress reduction exercise tailored for you, or physical exercises that are tailored for older adults, or maybe do a video conference with your child or with your doctor on demand. So it's not just about going back and forth in conversation. It's also creating interventions that are relevant to that situation for that specific individual across the goals that we're trying to achieve.
Wow, incredible. Now, are there any wearables, anything like that, any trackables that come along with LEQ that help it track any health issues, things like that for elderly?
Currently, there are no wearables. There could be. It's
Sure.
it's an app. It has APIs, although it sits inside of a robot. It does have body language.
Okay.
So as you talk to her, she'll look at you, she'll nod, she'll apologize if she gets things wrong. She has a screen, so if the family sends pictures, she'll look at the screen together with you, understand what's in the picture, and talk to you about it. Oh, who had a birthday? That's a really cute baby, et cetera, et cetera. But the older adult population is not really wearing wearables all that much. We're excited to see that start and get adopted. And then, of course, it's more signals into the AI. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when it comes to elderly empathy, the idea of, being there, the idea of having somebody there to talk to. That loneliness, once again, is such a huge aspect and affects so many different parts of our health that we are just not aware of typically.
I fully agree. I mean, I spoke to one of our customers lately. Her husband passed away after 65 years of marriage. 65 years. Now she's by herself. And even that small thing of having nobody to say good morning when you wake up.
Yeah.
And so, why even get dressed in the morning? Why even go about it? And the fact that LEQ sees her, greets her good morning, says, you're looking beautiful this day. And the sun is shining. Why don't you go out for a stroll? And caused her from being recluse to actually being socially active, and then leaving the house and being active inside of her community, into the senior center, meeting new people, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow, incredible. Now, what kind of price point is somebody looking at to get into an LEQ for family members that are elderly?
Yeah, so what would you think for an AI-enabled robot that has, by the way, over 30 interactions a day and is proven to reduce loneliness for 95% of the population?
I would figure at least a $750 price tag.
Yeah, so we charge between $50 and $60 a month.
Wow. That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's literally on the order of almost like a Metatag bracelet.
Correct.
Something like that.
Correct. And what's even more is now there are more and more local, state, and government organizations that are actually funding 100% of this product. So if you happen to live in New York, you can get one for free. If you live in most counties in Florida, you can get it for free.
Wow.
Paid for by the Office for the Aging. And we're seeing more and more Medicare and Medicaid companies also distributed to their population, because obviously when you deal with mental health issues, you deal with loneliness, you help people take their medication on time, take their blood pressure measurement on time, etc. It has an effect on their health, which they benefit from.
100%. I mean, even if it's there just to gently remind them, hey, it's coming up on lunch. You should probably take your medicine again.
But what's more, if you're not, why not? Are you feeling a side effect? Did you run out?
Absolutely.
You need some help? Maybe I can tell your daughter and she can pick up the prescription for you.
Are you having problems opening the bottle?
Exactly right.
Things like that.
Exactly
just common everyday things that are a course of conversation, but are so entirely important to...
now that we integrated LLMs inside, it's gone even further than that. I just had a conversation this morning in our booth here with LEQ about the meaning of life. And she knows the names of my kids and the names of my wife. So she asked, what's important for you in life? I said, I really like spending time with my family and sharing a meal with them. She was like, I remember you once told me that Danielle, your daughter, loves pasta. Do you cook pasta for her? And,
It's almost like an on-call therapist to an extent, where you can talk about those issues. Because even especially with elderly, many times they don't want to burden somebody with their problems. So when their son or daughter does come over and visit, they don't necessarily tell them about all the health issues that they're having, about the lost sleep that they're having, or medication issues, things like that.
You're absolutely right. A lot of our customers don't want to burden their children. They don't want to burden the system.
Yeah.
And LEQ checks up on them. And, if you're not feeling well for 2 or 3 days in a row, she'll say, listen, I really think you need to tell your doctor. Do I have your permission to call them? Do I have your permission to send them a message and describe your symptoms? In fact, we had a case a while back where this was happening with a lady. She didn't want to be a bother. LEQ urged her to get health. It turns out she was hospitalized for untreated UTI. She had sepsis in her blood system, and she would have died.
Wow. Incredible. Quite literally a life-saving story.
In this case, it is.
And, to know that is AI-driven, and I think that's a big part for me, is that so many people see AI as this horrible concept, as this horrible thing. but it's there to help us learn about ourselves. It's there to help us learn what's best for us in so many ways, just through that the simplicity of trend tracking even, things like that, and using LEQ for stuff like that to help elderly people in their everyday life is absolutely awesome.
Well, thank you. I think it's also important to think about the ethics around that.
Yeah.
We work with a vulnerable population. They might become less sound from a cognitive perspective. So we make sure that LEQ always reinforces the fact that she's an AI.
Now,
she doesn't pretend to be human. In every interaction, especially if it's emotional. For example, if somebody says, LEQ, I love you, which is great. We love hearing that.
Sure.
She'll say, oh, thank you. That makes my processor overheat. That makes my lights shine brighter, right? Because we want to continually reinforce and say, it's great to build a relationship with an AI, and we as humans have the capacity to create relationships just like we do with our pets, not just with humans, but we should always frame it as an AI and never try to pretend to be human.
Yeah. Now, is there any cross-compatibility, cross-connectivity with other devices, mobile devices, things like that with LEQ?
Yeah, we have a free app we offer to families.
Okay.
About 80% of our customers have at least one family member that downloads that app. They can use it for video conferencing, for picture sharing that shows up. LEQ records their life story and turns it into a short film they share with the family. But also, with the permission of the older adult, they get updates. Hey, mom's not feeling well. Oh, mom hasn't picked up her medication in a week, et cetera, so they can get that peace of mind aspect as well.
Well, and so that they can have information going armed into a doctor's visit as well.
Correct.
And the reason I ask is because right now there is a huge issue in our society with data phishing, especially with the elderly.
Yes.
They are a huge target with that. So to be able to even enable LEQ to be able to see a social media post or to see an email that's like, hey, the language of this kind of seems like somebody's trying to get some personal data from you.
That's a great feature idea.
You may not want to give them any bank information.
Yeah,
things like that, because that is a regular targeted scenario against elderly people right now.
For sure. I mean, the first thing we do is we make sure we don't sell our data to anybody. And we don't do any upselling. We don't want your credit card. We don't want even the presumptuous of somebody maybe thinking we might ever abuse it.
Yeah.
We get paid for the product. That's enough for us. At the same time, your idea is a great idea. Can LEQ help them stay safe in the cyber world? I've never considered that one.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
It's a big one, man.
Yeah.
Like my mother is coming up on 75, and 3 times in the last year I've mentioned, like, so who called you? The sheriff's department doesn't call you for money, right?
Right.
Like, I love you, Mom, but they're not going to call you up and ask you for money. That's somebody scamming you.
Correct. So that's why, for example, when we do calling and video calling through LEQ, it's only on an approved list of contacts.
Awesome.
Awesome. And those are safe for sure.
Yeah. So you're not going to get a spam call on LEQ or anything
correct,
like that.
Correct.
Awesome. So that's already preemptive
you
in that way.
You just really have to understand that once you earn trust, you're in a position of great influence.
Absolutely.
And you have a moral authority and moral imperative to do what's right for the older adult holistically, not just in their health care and their mental health, but also in their interactions with the world.
Absolutely. It's such an awesome, incredible product. Let everybody know where they can go to get their LEQ for family.
So they can go to leq.com, that's ELLIQ.com, and you can also put in your zip code there and see if you're able to get one for free by government subsidies.
That was going to be my next question, was how do they find out if they're available for that? So that is fantastic. I'm definitely checking into it for my mom. But whether it's available in the state of Texas or not, I will be contacting, because that's an incredible product and something that is highly, highly useful out there. Thank you so much for making that.
Fantastic.
So
and by the way, for anybody listening, if it's not available for free and they check out, they can write I know Door, my name, all in caps, no spaces, and they'll get a special discount.
Fantastic.
Just for being on the show.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for LEQ.
I love it.
Such an
Thanks for
incredible
having me on.
product. You bet.
The Tech Podcast Network CES 2024 coverage is executive produced by Michelle Mendez. Technical directors are Kurt Corliss and Adam Barker. Associate producers are Nancy Ertz, Clinton Millsap, Sergio Velasquez, and Terry Willingham. Voiceover by Aaron Hurst. Our hosts are Marlo Anderson, Don Bain, Todd Cochran, Scott Ertz, and Christopher Jordan. Studio and equipment are provided by Plunkets Productions. This has been a Tech Podcast Network broadcast, copyright 2024.